Welcome to another edition of Smalltalk for you. This morning I wanted to take a look at exception handling in VisualWorks, which is going to be largely similar to what I covered in exception handling for Pharo. The two both use the ANSI standard exception handling mechanism. The older instance-based signal mechanism is still in VisualWorks. I'm not going to cover that because it's really not something people expect you to use anymore, but you'll stumble across it occasionally in code. Let's take a look at the way things work now. I'm going to set up an artificial exception by dividing by 0, and I'm going to look for the specific exception that's going to be thrown, and then I'm going to handle it. So you have on, do, just like you did in Pharo. And here I'm just going to print to the transcript. So to do this, we're going to do a do it. And you see instead of getting an error, we get the exception printed here. Now here what we're going to do is ignore the error. What we're going to do is take the exception, and on it we're going to just resume, meaning proceed after it as if nothing happened. So continue on, don't retry, don't return a value, just go on as if nothing at all happens. We'll try that. And you see we get the after exception. So it just proceeded on merrily as if nothing occurred. Now that's probably not what you typically want to do. More often you might want to return some value. So you're going to come in here, and on the exception you're going to do a return. And if you just send return, what it's going to do is return with nil. So it's going to do a return colon, but return with nil. And we come in here, do a print it, and you see we get back nil. You can also return with a specific value, so you can do a return colon instead, and instead of giving it the nil default, you can hand it something specific. So here we'll return with a 5, do a print it, and you see we get that answer. Slight variant you can do just like Pharo. You can rewind the context stack and tell it, take that thing off the context stack, replace it with this other block, and try that instead. So you're going to end up with much the same result as you did with return colon, but it's going to execute slightly differently. We'll do a print it here, and again, we just get back 5, but instead of handing it a return value to sub in instead of whatever came back from the exception, we're going to instead tell it, rewind the stack, replace the bad entry on the stack with this good entry, and try that block instead. It can be very handy for the case where you're doing something with like HTTP, and you want to say, well, it didn't really work the way we expected. Let's try going to this other site instead, or some other kind of system where you want to try some alternate block to execute some more specific code than you can get into in just code right here. So, that's about it for today. Until next time, have fun with whatever Smalltalk you're using.